All right, we ain't gonna waste too much time. Happy Tuesday, happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, January the 17th, 2023, day 317 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1336. Today we're picking back up in Romance of the Red Star. I gotta get the book on page, hold on. On page 8 with chapter 5. And then we're going to hop over here to delusions in science and spirituality, reading a little bit more on the Reincarnation chapter, picking that up on page 280. Hold on. Yeah, we're going to start over. 288. All right, beautiful people. Father, we thank you for another wonderful, beautiful day to come together to continue our research in truth and light. Everybody, darn, what's good, family? Eat my beautiful rising. Hana, shalom, shalom. Shebrew, all praises to the great creator. Jamia, hey, girl, hey. Rita, good morning. Vinette, shalom, sis. Tiffany, hey, cousin, hey, girl, hey. And everybody else here hanging out in the background of both places. Top of the morning to you. All right, y'all. Let's get started. Take a sip of water. Ain't got much time to waste. All right. Chapter, in Big Blue, if you are following along in Big Blue, it will be chapter 6 on page 9, where it starts off when man comprehended. All right. When man comprehended the earth, he looked upward and beheld that each and everything in the firmament was orderly. Then Jehovah spake, saying, As I have shown system in the corporal worlds, know thou, O man, that system prevaileth in the firmament. As a farmer soweth corn in one place, and wheat in another, and flax, everything in a separate place, even so do I store the ingredients of which worlds are made, everything in its place, the substance of the iron in one place, the substance of the stones in another, the substance of the vegetable kingdom in another, and even so the substance of the animal kingdom, and the oils and sand, for I have places in the firmament of heaven for all of them. These that thou hast seen are the Aji and Ga and the nebula, and amidst them in the places there is Simu also. Let no man say, yonder only is hydrogen, and yonder only oxygen. The divisions of the substances of my creations are not as man would make them. All elements are to be found not only in places near at hand, but in distant places also. When I drive forth my worlds in the heavens, they gather a sufficiency of all things. So also cometh it to pass that when a corporal world is yet new and young, it is carried forth, not at random, but purposely, in the regions suited to it. Hence, there is a time for Simu, a time for falling nebula to bury deep in the forest, and Simuan beds to provide coal and manure for a time thereafter. So is there a time when the earth passes a region in the firmament, when sand and oil are rained upon it and covered up, and gases bound and sealed up for the coming generations of men. That is amazing. Chapter 6. And man said, Teach thou me, O Jehovah, how was the beginning of man on earth? Jehovah said, To the tree I gave life, to man I gave life and spirit also. And the spirit I made was separate from the corporal life. Out of Simu I made man, and man was but as a tree, but dwelling in darkness and incapable of immorality, and I called him Asu. I looked over the wide heavens of Ethera, and I saw countless millions of spirits of the dead that died in infancy on other corporal worlds. I spoke in the firmament, and there came in answer to the sound of my voice myriads of angels from the earth's roadway in Ethera, where earth traveled. I said to them, behold, a new world I have created. Come ye and enjoy it. Yea, ye shall learn from it how it was with other worlds in ages past. There was a question. Just me, Shalom. I think it was Jamia. Hold on. I think this is what we was looking for. I forget what the question was, but when I just read it, I remembered halfway your question. You remember your question? Audrey, Shalom. Yes, Dawn, we did. I prayed. I did it real quick as I came in. Auntie Belinda Brown, Shalom, Shalom. Jamia, she might be getting her kids ready. Hold on. Let me highlight this. I think we were talking about reincarnation. And I said there was a place in Owaspy. I couldn't remember exactly where. But it was talking about spirits from other worlds. Like if they, because you asked the question, what about the spirits that like died in infancy? What happens to them? And I was like, now I remember reading something about it. I can't tell you exactly where it was at, but I know it's in there. Let me highlight this over here in big blue. Yeah, right here. Okay, and in big blue, it starts at verse 14 in chapter 6. Let me make a little note real quick. I'll text it to her. Okay. Let me just read it again. I'll go back up to what is verse 12 in big blue. I looked over the wide heavens of Ethera, and I saw countless millions of spirits of the dead that died in infancy on other corporal worlds. I spoke in the firmament, and there came in answer to the sound of my voice myriads of angels from the earth's roadway in Ethera, where earth traveled. I said to them, behold, a new world have I created. Come ye and enjoy it. Ye shall learn from it how it was with the other worlds in ages past. There came to the new earth millions of angels from Ethera who had never fulfilled a corporal life. Jamil, you hear me? She probably had to come back. Yeah, keep going down. This is it. This is what I was looking for. We had this conversation like a week ago. Tabitha, Shalom, sis. There came to the earth millions of angels from Ethera who had never fulfilled a corporal life, having died in infancy, and these angels comprehended not procreation nor corporal life. And I said, go and deliver Asu from darkness, for he shall also rise in spirit to inherit my Etherian worlds. And now was earth in the latter days of Simu, and the angels could readily take on corporal bodies for themselves. Out of the elements of the earth clothed they themselves, by force of their wills, with flesh and bones. By the side of the Asuans took they on the corporal forms. And I said, go forth and partake of all that is on earth. But if you heed the voice of corpor, you will become bound to your offspring, and as if dead to the heavens whence ye came. So this is what happened to the sons of men who came down and had sex with women. They bound themselves here. You know, chapter 15 talks about that, but in other places too. And now, I'm going to read this over. And now was the earth in the latter days of Simu, and the angels could readily take on corporal bodies for themselves. Out of the elements of the earth clothed they themselves by force of their wills, with flesh and bones. By the side of the Asuans, they took on corporal forms. And I said, go forth and partake of all that is on earth. But if you heed the voice of corpor, you will become bound to your offspring, and as if dead to the heavens whence ye came. But those who had never learned corporal things, being imperfect in wisdom, comprehended not my words, and they dwelt with the Asuans, and there was born of the first race, Asu, a new race capable of immortality. And I took the earth out of the travail of Simu, and the angels gave up their corporal bodies. And I said, from this time forth on earth, it shall be a crime for angels to cohabit with mortals, because ye have raised up such as shall be joint heirs in heaven. Ye shall tread the earth with your feet, and walk by the side of the newborn, being guardian angels over them, for they are your own flesh and kin. Fruit of your seed have I quickened with my spirit, and man shall come forth with a birthright to my Ethereal worlds. As I have quickened the seed of the firstborn, so will I quicken all the seed to the end of the earth. And each and every man, child, and woman child born into life will I quicken with a new spirit, which shall proceed out of me at the time of conception. As the corporal earth passeth away, so shall pass away the race of Asu. Neither will I give to any spirit of the higher or lower heavens power to enter a womb or a fetus of a womb and be born again. This is definitely the chapter I was looking for, Jamia. Okay. Yep. All right, boom. Okay, so we'll read one more chapter, then we'll hop over here to the book since I'm running behind. All right. Chapter 7. Jehovah said, as I bequeath to earth a time for creating the living and time for angels to come and partake of the first fruits of mortality, so shall man at certain times and seasons receive testimony from my host in heaven as a sign to the inhabitants of the earth, that they may comprehend Danha in the firmament of heaven. I cause earth and the family of the sun to travel in an orbit, the circuit of which requireth them 4,700,000 years. And I place Ethereal lights at distances of 3,000 years in the line of the orbit, at which places, as earth passes through, angels from Ethereal come into its corporal presence. As ambassadors they come in companies of hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands, and these are called the Ethereal hosts of the Most High. Not as single individuals come they, not for a single individual mortal come they. And I gave the sign to man on earth. In the beginning of the light of Danha, the spirits of the newly dead shall have power to take upon themselves the semblance of corporal bodies and appear and talk face to face with mortals. Hold on. I'm gonna read that again. Okay. And I gave this sign to man on earth. In the beginning of the light of Danha, the spirits of the newly dead shall have power to take upon themselves the semblance of corporal bodies and appear and talk face to face with mortals. Every 3,000 years I gave this sign on earth, that those who learned the powers and capacities of such familiar spirits might bear testimony in regard to the origin of man on earth. Did we freeze? I don't know. Did we freeze? Okay, it was your end. Brian, Joe, shalom, shalom. Okay. Yeah, if you freeze or if it's like pausing or the sound go out, check your stuff first. Stop it or close it out all the way and start it. If it's a lag, close it out, start it back, and it'll speed you right back up to where we at. Okay. And it shall come to pass in any of the times of Danha that these signs are manifest. Man shall know that the hosts of the Most High are visiting earth. Let him who will become wise enumerate the great lights of my solar serpent. For in such times I set aside things that are old and establish my chosen anew. In the time of earth, when man was brought forth from mortal to immortal, when man was brought forth from mortal to immortal life, the earth passed beyond Simu, and the angels of heaven remained with corporal man, but not in a semblance of mortals, but as spirits, and by virtue of their presence strove to make man wise and upright. Upon the earth, the number of such angels was millions. To these angels I spake, saying, Behold the work ye have taken in hand. Ye now have sons and daughters on the earth. By your love to them are ye become bound spirits of the lower heaven, until ye redeem them in wisdom and power. Even to the 6th generation, ye shall not again arise and inherit my emancipated heavens, to which end ye shall become co-workers with one another in system and order. Until ye redeem them in wisdom and power, even to the 6th generation, ye shall not again rise and inherit my emancipated heavens, to which end ye shall become co-workers with one another in system and order. In my name shall ye become an organic body in the heaven of the earth, or lower heaven. And I will allot unto you a chief, who is wise, inexperienced in founding heavenly kingdoms, and he shall appoint from amongst you officers and messengers, and Ashars and Asaphs and Esinars, and ye shall be numbered and apportioned unto your labor, and places like unto my lower heavens on other worlds. And he who is chief shall be called God of earth. Ki shalom, shalom. And God shall have a council and a throne within his heavenly city, and the place shall be called Horeb, because it is the first heavenly kingdom on earth. And God shall rule on the throne, for it is his, and the council shall rule, for it is And God shall rule on the throne, for it is his, and the council shall rule with him. In my name they shall have dominion over angels and mortals belonging to earth. And God shall appoint chiefs under him, who shall go down and dwell on earth with mortals. And such chiefs' labor shall be with mortals for their resurrection. And these chiefs shall be called lords, for they are gods of land, which is the lowest rank of my commissioned gods. And God and his lords shall have dominion from 200 years to 1,000 or more years, but never more than 3,000 years. According to the regions of Dan, into which I bring earth, so shall be the terms of the office of my gods and lords. And God and his lords shall raise up officers to be their successors. By him and them shall they be appointed and crowned in my name. At the termination of the dominion of my God and his lords, they shall gather together in these my bound heavens all such angels as have been prepared in wisdom and strength for resurrection to my emancipated heavens. And these angels shall be called brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah, and to God and his lords. With the brides and bridegrooms I will send down ships from Ethera in the time of Dan, but my Etherian gods and goddesses by my Etherian gods and goddesses shall the ships descend to these heavens and receive God and his lords with the bride and bridegrooms, and carry them up to the exalted regions I have prepared for them. And all such as ascend shall be called a harvest unto me through my God and lords. And the time of my harvest shall be according to each Dan, which is 200, 400, 600, and 500 years. And these shall be called my lesser cycles. because they are the times of the tables of prophecy, which I gave unto my chosen. But at no other times, nor in any other way, shall my harvest ascend to my emancipated worlds in Ethera. 7 Dans have I created for each and every Dan Ha. And that is where we will pause right here today. And I know we at only like 20 minutes, but I got to make up some time. All right. So let's hop over here. Let me put that page number. Hold on. Okay, let's hop over to page 288 in Delusions and Science and Spirituality to the Reincarnation chapter 7, page 288. And we're going to start over because I couldn't finish yesterday after we got done with the Fruit Loop experiment, y'all. My grandbabies was too big. They was big loud. They was too loud. Okay, spiritualism and reincarnation. Quote, we climb from world to world in the continuing road of life. End quote. Hopi mystery play. Confusing spiritualism with reincarnation, they are most definitely not the same, has become a real problem. Consider the Bridie Murphy case. Quote, the eventual debunking of the Bridie story, wrote one scientist, referring to the well-known reincarnation hoax in the 1950s, helped to shape my view of supernatural and paranormal phenomena. I'm not going to believe in reincarnation or ghosts or out-of-body experiences. End quote. Stein, 2012, page 26. Throwing out the baby, which is spiritualism, with the bathwater, reincarnation, Dr. Stein was talking about the sensation started by Maury Bernstein's book, The Search for Bridie Murphy, in which a Colorado housewife named Virginia Teague was mistaken actually, for the reincarnation of a long-dead Irish woman named Bridie Murphy. It turned out that someone named Bridie Murphy Corkle had been a neighbor of Virginia's when she was a little girl. 3 months after the publication of Bernstein's book, America's leading expert in parapsychology, J.B. Rhine, was asked what he thought of Bernstein's claims. Quote, leading a person back through hypnotic regression, as was done in this case, is the wrong road to take. Science should first attempt to discover whether there is a spirit personality. Remarkable persons, while in trance, could receive messages from spirits trying to reach living people, end quote. And she put my italics, and her italics is the 2 words, spirit personality. Rhine, 1956, page 300. The fact that Virginia Teague had the ability to enter immediately into deep trance, less than 12% of the population can do this, suggests that she herself was a psychic sensitive, capable, even unbeknownst to herself, of making contact with departed souls. The spirit personalities of J.B. Rhine spoke. In fact, hold on. I gotta look up something. In fact, Bridie herself comes off as a typical earthbound soul whose best shot at some action is through the sensitive, the clairvoyant, the mortal receiving station. Catholic, Bridie said she was surprised that she had not gone to purgatory upon her death in 1864. Instead of beginning the upward journey, she stuck around. Quote, I stayed right in that house until John, her husband, died, end quote, after which she proceeded to overshadow her brother, Duncan. Did you ever let Duncan know you were there? He wouldn't answer me. How did you try to speak to him? I would stay there by the bed and talk, and he would never see me. Bernstein, 1965, page 132. Ain't that crazy? Listen. You hear what she just said? This is spirit talking through her now. She said after she died, she stayed. Yes, Jamil, I did. I figured you was getting the kids ready. I'll text you. Look, after she died, her husband was still alive. And it said, let me just read it again. It wasn't until after she didn't overshadow her husband now. She just kind of stayed there talking to him until her husband died some years later or whatever. But then she overshadowed her brother after her husband died. You would think, okay, husband died. Now we could just roll on up out of here together. But if I understand correctly, by reading some of Robert Monroe's, right? Some of his experiments and some of the things that they did going into the spiritual realm through meditation and just learning about different things and astral projecting, you would think, well, there is like a certain point. But when people first die, it's like, okay, if somebody's been there, let me make sure I'm explaining this the right way. But you got to go listen to Robert Monroe's books or read it. When a person dies, they can't necessarily see some of the other spirits that have been there, although they can feel the presence. But I think they have to develop a little bit more. But when they first die, they can't necessarily see, like if your mom then died, right? And then you died maybe like 10 years later. It's like, boo, hey, mom, here. From what I understand, if I understand this correctly, they don't see them right away. And if it depends on what state your mother was in when she died as well, right? If she was still hanging around, and even if she's still hanging around, there's a lot of different variables that you got to look at, from what I understand. But that's why you would think that when her husband died, they would have just rolled on out together in spirit. But that wasn't the case. You know, she stuck around unless her husband was a little bit higher raised than she was. But then also in that case, if he was raising higher and she was sticking around after she died, she should have been raising higher as well. And then they could have both progressed on, but he wasn't there. It doesn't talk about that. But she began to overshadow her brother. It's interesting. Tabitha said, after studying the WASP, my understanding on reincarnation, I am not convinced by anyone who believes the reincarnation story. I know, right? I don't either. I was getting real into it. Listen. Let me read this again. Hold on. In fact, I'm going to go back to page 289, like 4 sentences from the bottom. In fact, Bridie herself comes off as a typical earthbound soul whose best shot at some action is through the sensitive, the clairvoyant, the mortal receiving station. Catholic, Bridie said she was surprised that she had not gone to purgatory upon her death in 1864. Instead of beginning the upward journey, she stuck around. Quote, I stayed right in that house until John, her husband, died, end quote, after which she proceeded to overshadow her brother, Duncan. Did you ever let Duncan know you were there? He wouldn't answer me. How did you try to speak to him? I would stay there by the bed and talk, and he would never see me. Bernstein, 1965, page 132. I must say it was with considerable cunning that the splinter sect or combination of reincarnationalists established itself in the tailwind of true spiritualism, Shanghaiing the curious and gullible and inverting the meaning of immortality. All this seems to have been orchestrated by certain spirits, the same earthbound factions that, centuries ago, abrogated to higher heavens and set themselves up as God of all in the lowest heaven. Let me read that again. I must say it was with considerable cunning that the splinter sect or combination of reincarnationalists established itself in the tailwind of true spiritualism, Shanghaiing the curious and gullible and inverting the meaning of immortality. All this seems to have been orchestrated by certain spirits, the same earthbound factions that, centuries ago, abrogated to the higher heavens and set themselves up as God of all in the lowest heaven. Quote, thousands of millions of the spirits of the dead know not the plan of the resurrection to higher heavens, not even the organizations of the kingdoms in the lowest heavens, and these do inspire mortals with the same darkness. End quote. Owaspi, Book of Esra, chapter 1, page 4 through 7. Quote, the immortal soul flies out in empty space to seek her fortune in some other place. End quote. Ovid, Metamorphosis. But when a believer in reincarnation dies, his spirit falls inexorably into the otherworldly precinct occupied by those angels who teach reincarnation, and he becomes their servant, thus helping to make their heavenly kingdom large and powerful. So when they die, they gravitate to the lowest heavens, where the shenaniganized teachings of reincarnation come out of, and they become a part of that army, continually trying to persuade mortals that reincarnation is true. Because when you die, you can come there too, and you're going to join the army to try and fool more people until people like us show up. We stopping this foolishness. How about, y'all, this scared crap out of me. I had a dream the other night, like night before last, and I just been thinking about it. But then I thought about the series Evil, right? You know, when I'm George, the black monster dude that show up in the girl's dreams at night, messing with him till she got hip to who he was, and she began to mess with him. So the other night, I had a dream, me and my husband, who was in a house, and it wasn't, I want to say we were on vacation somewhere, and the place that we had rented out had this upstairs, and I went and I looked around the corner. I'm like, you know this room got an upstairs? He said, yeah, I know, but don't go up there. It's dark. I'm like, yeah, I see it's dark, and it's a lot of stairs too. So I'm like, they should have put a door and a lock over here. And I just walked away, like looking back. And I'm like, and I went back again. I'm like, why didn't they tell us about this? And I looked, and there was like this weird, eerie feeling. Although there was nothing there. It's just like if you have stairs and you cut off the lights that go upstairs, it's just like dark. But like I said, it was like, if you look at it, it was probably about the length of maybe 2 sets of stairs. And a regular set of stairs in the house is about 14, 15 steps, right? So it was double the amount of stairs, and it was a door right at the top. And the whole hallway, it was dark, leading all the way to the top, although I could see each individual stair. And I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, maybe we need to get out this room, because I don't even want to be in a room where I know that's there, because I don't know what's behind that door. And so I went to go get in the bed. And so me and my husband was talking. He fell asleep. And there was this dude that appeared out of nowhere, like black dude. And he had like a goatee and everything. And his nose, his features were, he wasn't like ugly and anything. He was like a really attractive looking dude. But then I realized he wasn't like a real person. He was like a spirit. And I become aware of it in a dream. And he began to talk to me. I'm like, if you don't get out of here. And he just looked at me. He was like, I'm going to scare you. I was like, you ain't scaring nothing over here. And what's crazy is I realized in my dream that I was dreaming. And then when he realized that I realized I was dreaming, he decided to try and scare me and attack me, and came and jumped on me. Like I was laying in the bed, and he was like a full grown man, and came and jumped on me, like sat on me. Like I couldn't feel the weight of it or anything. And he grabbed my hand and put my hand in his mouth. And he bit it, and I could feel the pain. And then I woke up like screaming with my hand doing like this. I'm like, I woke up and said, you bastard. And I was doing like this. I was like, wait a minute. My hand not even hurting. Pam, you asleep. And then I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I bet this dream is some residual of me watching Evil. I don't think I'm going to finish the series. Look, and I hadn't even watched it. And I haven't even got out the first season. And I think I stopped at like episode 9, I think. Just because I wanted to watch it, but it's gotten like busy and stuff, right? But I'm thinking, because I think there was a scene in there where George bit the girl, wasn't it? If I remember correctly. And I was just thinking that was just residual of that happening. It's crazy. I don't know, but I've been thinking about it. It's like weird because I'm looking at all the different elements of the dream and stuff and see if it's representing something now in my waking life or if it's just my overactive imagination and stuff. It's weird. It's weird. But anyway, I thought about that when I just read this. Listen, let's go back. Quote, the immortal soul flies out in empty space to seek her fortune in some other place. End quote. Ovid, Metamorphosis. But when a believer in reincarnation dies, his spirit falls inexorably into the otherworldly precinct occupied by those angels who teach reincarnation, and he becomes their servant, thus helping to make their heavenly kingdom large and powerful. Quote, thus do ye prepare mortals to become slaves in your heavenly kingdoms, building unto your own personal glory. For ye take advantage of the credulous mind to bend it away from eternal progress, that ye may inherit it as your dutiful subject. End quote. Owaspy, God's Book of Escrow, chapter LII, verses 22 through 23. Yeah, he bit, okay, that's what I thought, he bit her finger. But this dude, he bit like my whole hand, like that. Okay, so this next page is some more little cartoons. All right, so I'm gonna read this. Okay, at the top, this first one, it's like 2 angels right here. Y'all see that? And it says, the dude says, we'll be resurrected in our clothes. And then the girl angel's like, oh my God, what will I wear? Then it goes to the old guy walking with a staff and a light. This one right here. And it says, because of the belief that a total body will be necessary at resurrection, the Pharisee spent the rest of his life searching for his baby teeth. Map of the immediate world, atmosphere. And that's this right here, right? So this, we see a little bit of this, not as detailed like this, the way they put it in here, because I don't remember seeing this in Owaspy. This is, no, what? No, it's after plate 51. Hold on. Plate 51, page 490 in big blue. Let me see. Plate 49. Those are the cuts. Plate 49. Owaspy plate 51. Okay. Plate 49. Let's go back. Plate 51 is Travels of the Great Serpent, page 490. Yes. Yeah, plate 52, plate 51. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So if you look here on page 490, It's the cuts of the solar phalanx, that the fold out, the Sephorum. It's this one right here. But you got to look closely. You will see like the little diagonal lines. Hold on. Yeah, like separating it right here. You will see this. And all, it's kind of dark, right? So, but that's what this is showing. And it looks lighter. This right here, and you can actually read some of the stuff. So I'll read some of it if you don't have the book. So it says, in the ark of bond, being graves of heavenly kingdoms outward from earth, 3 worlds have I made: the earth world, which is for mortals, the all high heavens, which is for pure and wise angels, and the intermediate world, which resteth on the earth. Neither do mortals understand my heavens and the soul of man, and that neither do mortals understand my heavens, and that the soul of man should rise upward. Ezra chapter 6, plate 51. And it has, it looks like a basket weaving, but they call it cross hatching, indicates comparative densities. And this right here, this symbol is cross hatching. Right there, cross hatching. And then it says, there's an asterisk and says, phalanx indicates line of light from second resurrection, a parliament of angels. I'm looking for that. Hold on. They rise in wisdom and strength. Okay, so we'll start at the bottom right here, right? So this is earth down here. This is earth. And then you have along the line here, it says Danha right in here. And it has earth, then Hayden bound, Hell's spirits. Then it has Adam and Hosea, and that's 12 miles high, right? Right here, 12 miles above the earth. Then a little bit above that, above. Okay, so all of this and this, I'm trying to make sure I'm explaining this the right way. Within here, this is the first resurrection. And you see the hills, spirits of the dead, all this stuff down here. And it says ash, clouds, meteors, and nebula. Horak, Semyativi, and Amset. And that has this right here. That's 1,000 miles high above the earth. This line right here says first resurrection. And then it breaks it up with that line. And right above that, in this section, is the second resurrection. And that's 2,000 miles high. And it says Goddessa and Etero, Harivia, 2,500 miles above the earth. And it says second resurrection here. Over here on the side, it says, over here on the side, it says thousands of inhabited worlds, and it has arrows going out. So all through here are thousands within the first, second, and third resurrection, or thousands of thousands of uninhabited worlds. And then over here, this is atmosphere. That says atmosphere rotating with the earth. So the earth is rotating and all the atmosphere is rotating with it. It's heavens. And then up here in the third resurrection up here, and this is, it's another a spaced out form of the cross hatching. Like this one is like really close. It's really, really dense. And then it gets less dense. And then it's even, it's a little bit more less dense up here because the cross hatching spaces out. And it says rarefied. So this is the most, this level here is where up here in the third resurrection, they're like all pure up here. And then after here, Ethera is after the third resurrection. So Aru, 3,000 miles above the earth, highest inhabited heaven. They rise in wisdom and strength. And I think that's it. And it says top left, So the cartoons at the top, this is figure 7.3, top left and right, Resurrection Cartoons by Marvin E. Herring. The bottom is Resurrections After Owaski, plate 51. All right. The next page, page 292. Pythagoras, 582 to 507 BCE, was a reincarnationist who fancied he had died at the siege of Troy. The Pythagorean brand of reincarnation, teaching the transmigration of souls into animal bodies, was more than two millennia later, elegantly routed by William Shakespeare. Quote, "What is the opinion of Pythagoras concerning wild fowl? That the soul of our grandam might haply inhabit a bird. What thinkest thou of his opinion? I think nobly of the soul, and no way approve of his opinion." End quote. From 12th Night with Similar Views, expressed in As You Like It, Act 3, Scene 2, and The Merchant of Venus, Act 4, Scene 1. Reincarnation today sees rebirth as a golden opportunity, the choice of when and where to manifest, presumably made according to the soul's purpose. In a rather well-known case, a reader of past lives once told the fancy novelist Taylor Caldwell that she had been a writer before in a previous life, but not terribly successful, partly due to her gender. Quote, "This is why it was decided that in this lifetime success would be yours. You chose to come back in an incarnation at a time when the work of women has been accepted." End quote. Stern, 1973, page 255. It has another little cartoon, and it's like a fly and a ladybug, right? This is a representation of being reincarnated into an insect, right? They believe all kinds of stuff, like you can die and come back a butterfly. And then the fly is looking at the ladybug, and he said, "Sheila?" And the ladybug looking back at him saying, "Irvin?" Boy, I tell you, sometimes we can believe some of the dumbest stuff that just don't make good, logical, common sense. And how we're talked into believing it in the first place is completely beyond me. But it happens, right? You never finished this series? I just saw your comment, Shebrew. You never finished it either? Listen. Page 293. According to the beliefs, then, we are choosers. We choose our parents. We choose our century. We choose our circumstances. I remember when I was learning that part, I was like, boom. I was like, I got the best siblings in the world. Matter of fact, I'm a part of the best family in the world, hands down. And while we was believing in reincarnation, me and my sisters, we just kind of looking at some of these points. It's like, boom. So I wonder where we was at in the last life. But wherever we was at, we chose to always come back and be together. Like, we chose our children chose us. Like, oh, I'm just thinking about some of these conversations we was having while we was walking through this. I'm pulling up videos on YouTube to further, there is no end to the foolishness. And you can find it anywhere. If you go looking for foolishness, there is no end of it. You can find anything you want to believe. It's already out there. I promise you it's already out there. YouTube is going to be your #1 search engine. And it's going to pop up. But you'll also find the truth. You got to figure out how to wade between the waters, the garbage and stuff that's out there. Because there's a little nuggets of truth out there with people telling it. But that stuff, it's not being recommended. And it goes like to the last pages of Google, and you don't see it popping up as being suggested and stuff unless you're already looking for truth and you put in the right keywords. Mom, shalom. Listen. According to these beliefs, we're on page 293 in chapter 7, is reincarnation. According to these beliefs, then, we are choosers. We choose our parents. We choose our century. We choose our circumstances. We choose to come back and learn and evolve, to paraphrase James von Prague. But if this process is optional, a choice, What happens to those who don't choose to come back? What about the billions of people on earth who do not believe in reincarnation and will take their chances in the upper country rather than return for another bout in the body? Significantly, Professor Stevenson openly admitted that reincarnation is hardly reported in societies that do not believe in reincarnation. Conversely, most of his cases come from societies that do believe in reincarnation. I'll say this, those who believe in it are most likely to try to come back. This is kind of like those who, in Christianity, it's the same thing, right? Because I've had some people while I was on my little travels outside of Christian land, people was asking they was looking at stuff and they was like, okay, so if we believe in Jesus and we believe this, what about the people that don't believe in this? And I said, well, they just make one place for everybody that don't believe or accept Jesus. Oh, they go to hell. But all of us that do, well, we get to ascend and go to heaven and stuff. But everybody that don't believe in them, they go to hell. But there's multiple societies that never even heard of Jesus. And do you think that is fair of the great creator, where people live and die and never even heard the word Christianity? Would that be fair to them? I think that would be really unjust and go to hell because you never accepted Jesus. That's not even what they do in their culture, right? I began to think about all those little different things. I was like, well, you got a good point. I hadn't even thought about that, right? But as indoctrination is breaking, you start to ask some more logical questions that would never come up while you're stuck in a strong delusion. It's impossible, right? You got to be exposed to it before it to even start beginning to compute. Conversely, most of his cases come from societies that do believe in, hold on, let me go back. Let me read this. Let me just go back to the top. According to these beliefs, then, we are choosers. We choose our parents. We choose our country. We choose our circumstances. We choose to come back and learn and evolve, to paraphrase James Von Prague. But if this process is optional or choice, what happens to those who do not choose to come back? What about the billions of people on earth who do not believe in reincarnation and will take their chances in the upper country rather than return for another bout in the body? Significantly, Professor Stevenson openly admitted that reincarnation is hardly reported in societies that do not believe in reincarnation. Conversely, most of his cases come from societies that do believe in reincarnation. I'll say this, those who believe in it are most likely to try to come back. One member of Stevenson's team, psychiatrist Jim Tucker, took up the problem by proposing that some people have past lives while others would be here for the first time. That's something we ran into too, right? Okay, so how many times have we actually come back? Is this our first time coming back? Because if we don't have any recollection of coming back before, this could be our first time coming back. Dummy. None of you can remember anything. This is all of our first time coming here, and it will be our last time. Like, you run into all of this running through the reincarnation cult. That's what we'll call it, the reincarnation cult. All of this stuff. One member of Stevenson's team, psychiatrist Jim Tucker, took up the problem by proposing that some have past lives while others would be here for the first time. Tucker, 2005, page 199. Doesn't that imply that the first-timers have their own soul? Of course it does, but that leaves me wondering about the mind-bending logistics of it all and the probability that we each have our own soul. Given the scenario of optional re-embodiment, some people are presumably reincarnated and others not, right? So exactly what soul inhabits the knots? It would be their own natural spirit. And it follows that the natural spirit must be pushed out or replaced when a reincarnator comes along for a brand new life in the flesh. I find it interesting that the business of entering new bodies and living again was not as universally credited in classical India as thought. What do you think of this amusing but instructive Sanskrit fable from the Pancha Tantra? Quote, One day a king was passing through the marketplace when he observed a hunchback, Merry Andrew, whose contortions and jokes kept the bystanders in a roar of laughter. Amused with the fellow, the king brought him to his palace. Shortly thereafter, within earshot of the clown, the necromancer taught the monarch of the art of sending, Shortly thereafter, within earshot of the clown, a necromancer taught the monarch the art of sending his soul into a body not his own. A little while after this, the monarch, anxious to put in practice his newly acquired knowledge, rode into the forest accompanied by his fool. Presently, they came upon a corpse of a Brahmin lying in the depth of the jungle where he had died of thirst. The king, leaving his horse, performed the requisite ceremony, and instantly his soul migrated into the body of the Brahmin, while his own lay lifeless on the ground. At the same moment, the hunchback deserted his body and took possession of the king's. Ooh, listen. Have y'all seen I think it's Behind Her Eyes. They do this in Behind Her Eyes. This is something that can really be done, right? If you get to that level, if you know how to astral project, that's just like the first. I know this sounds new agey, but it's not. Everybody can do it. It's, if you want to call it gift of the spirit, it's just the things that our bodies were created to do. Because remember, we're spirits, and these are the cars that we're driving right now. And you can, at will, as you learn higher spiritual principles and everything, you can learn how to, at will, literally leave your body, right? But there are also those who are a little bit on the nefarious side of things. And if they can recognize that you've left your body, they'll come and inhabit you. Remember that dream Selah told us a couple weeks back, where he said that woman that had this whole supernatural experience, she contacted him and said that she had a dream that her husband came to her. Matter of fact, this dude had 2 wives. In the Hebrew, he was one of the brews. In the Hebrew Israelite community, the wife said that her husband came to him in a dream and said, hey, that's not me in my body, that's somebody else. And then the other wife that was in another state, both his wives, he keep them apart for whatever reason, get tired of you, I'm out. I'm go see my other wife, right? He came, the second wife had the same exact dream. They hadn't talked to each other, but had the same exact dream that their husband came to her and said, hey, that's not me in my body, that's somebody else. And he was trapped in the astral world, in the spirit world, and he couldn't get back in his body because somebody else had taken over. Now that's some crap, right? Listen, we learn about this stuff, but don't go trying to practice none of this stuff willy-nilly, right? If you done missed a couple class lessons and stuff, and I ain't teaching y'all how to do that here as of yet. I don't know that I teach that just because that's something you, listen, what it's saying here in the Chamber of Prophecy, that's something I think that while you're walking with Creator, it needs to be taught directly from the spiritual realm, because it's going to take you through your studies and you can own the information. You can get information, but you have to test stuff, right? How are we going to help them get up to the throne? You'll need to help them, because those who find the strength to mount the throne will find a way to be able to climb up to the top, right? That's let me read it. Hold on. And I know I just kind of summed it up. So that's what I think about that, right? Hold on. Chamber of Prophecy, page 564. It says, when you ready for it, it's that same little saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I feel the same way about some of this stuff. Like, we can talk about it, but I ain't gonna give y'all no detailed stuff on how to do this. Page 564. Right here. Chamber of Prophecy. God said, before learning to approach the foot of the throne, what profit is it to show them the way to mount upon the throne itself? Preserve, therefore, the secrets of prophecy like zippy lips. Don't tell them nothing. They'll figure it out if they're walking the right path. And if they figure out this much, they're going to figure out how to climb up and get to the top. You don't have to say anything. Shh, keep it a secret. Listen. God said, before learning to approach the foot of the throne, what profit is it to show them the way to mount upon the throne itself? Preserve, therefore, the secrets of prophecy for such as apply themselves to keeping Jehovah's commandments. Those who have attained to the foot can of themselves find the way to mount upon it. Which is why I will not teach y'all some stuff, because somebody gonna get a step wrong. And then you might be stuck in other worldly places. And you may not be living your life in 100% purity. And if you're not living your life in 100% purity, not that you don't make mistakes or whatever, but if your heart has any kind of other intentions other than just true light and learning, you're going to run into some roads that I didn't run into. I can guarantee you that. That I can guarantee you. Listen. Hold on. Okay. We're doing this parable about this hunchback and the king and astral projecting. All right. A little while after this, I went back to page 293, the bottom sentence, the last sentence. A little while after this, the monarch, anxious to put in practice his newly acquired knowledge, rode into the forest, accompanied by his fool. Presently, they came upon the corpse of a Brahmin lying in the depth of the jungle where he had died of thirst. The king, leaving his horse, performed the requisite ceremony, and instantly his soul migrated into the body of the Brahmin, while his own lay lifeless on the ground. At the same moment, the hunchback deserted his body and took possession of the king's. Yo. He said, now you got me wanting to try it. Listen. Remember what I just said. Not saying that you don't live your life, but I'm just saying, look. And they be telling you, some of them books, there are some books, because I got some of them, they will give you step-by-steps. And it will work. Like, it'll work. But before y'all, because some people like to just get right to the good stuff, and they don't read all the way through. Where some of them will give you like warnings, or once you get upon the steps, you just start trying the steps without reading it through first to make sure you comprehend everything and go to the back, see how this ended. They just hop into the steps. Now you get outside your body. What if you didn't read up until the next, the 3 steps after the next one that tell you how to get back? Now you stuck. Somebody come in and think you dead, right? Or you unconscious. Because what it's going to look like to them is you're unconscious or you're in a coma, right? And you trying to get back into your body, all this stuff. But now you're being prevented because you didn't recognize all the steps. And you don't know what in the world is happening. They're going to go in there, put you in the hospital, put you on life support. You there all this time trying to get back in your body. Doctors are coming in. Well, I think he's been on life support now for 14 weeks. 14 weeks you've been struggling, trying to get back in your body. You ain't left the side of your body. You was in the ambulance when they rolled you away. Like, wake up, wake up. You trying to jump in your you trying to jump in your body, and family members, and here come the hospital chaplain. They standing over you. You like, no, I'm here. Nobody can hear you, right? You decide to skip steps. You're too anxious to figure out how to do this. And now they about to bury your body. And you can be stuck there permanently. You have better hope that the chaplain or somebody, before they decide to cremate you or bury your body in the dirt, that somebody is sensitive enough to pick up on something, right? And so they can kind of like hold off. Because most of the time, nobody in your family is. They stand there calling on the name of Jesus, right? Jesus like, yo, bro, you already here with me. Come on and stay. Stay for a little while, right? You trying to get back in your body. JC in the back with his Jodeci boots. Because he got another one there. Oh, Lord have mercy. Y'all, this stuff is real. Don't be going to trial for real. Listen. Don't be going to trial for real. Like, even if you know you got the steps, talk to Creator, right? Because here's what I found out, right? If you stay in line like the Creator, you don't really have to go, although you can practice it. But what's going to begin to happen is it'll kind of start happening spontaneously. Right? It's like, okay, she ready for the next step. Boop. What in the world just happened? Put it back, right? They'll start walking with you step by step. Like, I'm not seeking how to do it, but once it begins to happen, my reticular activating system has kicked in, and now I'm conscious of what's happening, and now I'm going to research, like, oh my God, what just happened to me? And so now I'm looking into it. I'm like, yo, yeah, I'm not trying this, because it'll just start happening spontaneously as you grow spiritually. So depending on who you are, what type of family you're in, it could have been happening to you from birth, so to speak, right? And you got all these experiences happening to you that you can't quite put your hand on because you really haven't started studying it for real. But once you start studying it and realize what's happening, it's a part of the growth process. But I'm just saying, with all of this being funny, but seriously, just don't skip steps. I mean, you can practice it, but just don't skip steps. Be cautious. Don't go try and do nothing nefarious or when you do it, because you can do something in the spiritual realm and you think, and technically you might get away with it here on this realm, but you will not, you still gonna have to pay the penalty for what you did, right? Even though nobody here in the flesh saw you, or they can't hem you up on some law because they don't know it was you. It looks like a freak accident or something here. You don't get away with it. You don't get away with it. You absolutely do not get away with it. So be careful, because there's people that do that, right? Okay, let's get back to this story with the hunchback and the king. Listen, the king, leaving his horse, performed the requisite ceremony, and instantly his soul migrated into the body of the Brahmin, while his own lay lifeless on the ground. At the same moment, the hunchback deserted his body and took possession of the king's. Shouting farewell to the dismayed monarch, the merry Andrew rode back to the palace, where he was received with royal honors. But it was not long before the queen discovered that something was amiss. When the Kuwandam king in the Brahmin's body finally arrived and told his wife of his plight, a plot was devised for the recovery of his own true body. Just so, the queen asked her false husband, the merry Andrew, this was the hunchback, posing as the king now, in the swap bodies. And if y'all haven't seen Behind Her Eyes, go watch that movie. And you will see this. And this is in a couple other movies, but that's always like the first one that comes to mind because it was so good. And they did this whole body swapping thing. And it blew my mind because I was completely unaware until the very end. I'm like, what? Like, they did that movie so good. Like when it got to the end, when you thought you had the movie pinned down, when you got to the very end, you like, all this time. That movie was done beautifully. Just so, the queen asked her false husband, the merry Andrew, whether it were possible to make her parrot talk. In a moment of uxorious weakness, he promised to make the bird speak. Laying his body aside, he sent his soul into the parrot. But immediately, the true king jumped out of his Brahmin body and back into his own. Then, with the help of his queen, he then proceeded to wring the neck. He then proceeded to wring the neck of the hapless parrot. Boy, in other words, those who parrot the underhanded philosophy of the necromancer. Let me read it. Hold on. In other words, those who parrot the underhanded philosophy of the necromancer may risk being throttled. In any event, grabbing other people's bodies in the end will not save your own neck. This is a good little parable. But this like really happens in real lives. Shebrew. That was crazy. Look, I don't think the wives said that. I think that's something when we was joking about it when they was telling the story. I think that was us that kind of started having some fun with it. I don't think the wives themselves say that they like the new spirit in the hubby. But I could be wrong. I'm gonna have to go back to that video and read through all the comments again. But I don't want to say that the wives said that. I thought that was just us Say hello, Laura. What? I think that was just us having some fun. But they could have, because he a Hebrew Israelite, and especially if he one of them hate brews, they was probably glad to see that ninja go, right? They probably did like the new spirit in the husband. What? Like that. Go write it down. All right. Listen. The new age has been, and we're going to pause here after this little section right here. The new age has been with us for a while, apparently offering various alternatives to religion. The failure of the old religion has left a vacuum. The recovering Catholic, as the phrase goes, or the renegade Christian, or even the born atheist, still craves a taste of the sublime, of that which is permanent and full of glory. But with the widespread rejection of formal religion has come another God, another kind of blind faith, the church of materialism itself, the tabernacle of the flesh, and with it, the right of re-embodiment. Quote, the secret source of reincarnation's popularity, surmised William Butler, a 19th century thinker, is materialistic prejudices. What he meant is the glorification of man by resurrecting him in the flesh. I should have said, end quote, after the secret source is, quote, the secret source, end quote. I just read it over. Quote, the secret source, end quote, of reincarnation's popularity, surmised William Butler, a 19th century thinker, is materialistic prejudices. What he meant is the glorification of man by resurrecting him in the flesh. And in doing so, we confine all our beingness to the level of earth, the physical. Karma can only be worked out in a body. Thus does the spirit world lose all importance except as a tawdry waiting room, a holding tank for souls hoping to return to materiality in brand new bodies, and all the great truths of the ongoing are cast aside. And it's after this paragraph we're going to pause, y'all. The theory of reincarnation makes karma the kingpin. All suffering can be explained by past life mischief without bothering with present day inequities and human misery. Karma will explain it all. Why do we suffer? So that we may atone for our peccadillos committed in a former existence. For instance, the family that produced a Down syndrome child was told that the little boy's past life sins created the, quote, need to incarnate in a deformed state, end quote. While we was going through that, I came across some stuff like that too. And they really teach you that. And I'm like, that's crazy. So at that point, I began to look at people who had disabilities, whether it was Down syndrome or something else, or maybe they done lost their limbs for some reason, or an eye was put out or something like that. Now, that whole teaching of reincarnation had me wondering, like, darn, I wonder if he was like a mass murderer in a past life. I'm telling you, there is no end of the shenanigans that will come out of the reincarnation doctrine, right? It really starts messing with your thinking, and you thought Christianity screwed you up. It's going to do another type of number on the other side of your brain in reincarnation. And you would think that it's right and it's logical, and it's absolutely not. It's not. Listen, for instance, the family that produced a Down syndrome child was told that the little boy's past life sins created the, quote, need to incarnate in a deformed state, end quote. Langley, 1967, page 38. The scars of our passions, it is explained, quote, reach down the centuries, end quote. Langley, 1967, and the resulting torment is the only path to redemption for our blighted selves. Ignoring any monstrous causes from this very life, the reincarnationist tells us to trace the root of our problems to past life wrongdoing. And it is a law, quote, fixed and unalterable, end quote, Langley, 1967, page 38. But this fictitious logic, breaks down when we consider the further claims that we have no knowledge of our previous existences. How then can we learn from putative sins we cannot even remember? And that's what we're going to pause at today. This gets really, really good, y'all. So, but we already passed our time. So we're going to go ahead and pause right here, and we'll pick this up tomorrow. Put my page number 295. All right, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed it today. All right. That being said, Shebrew, I think you lagging again. Hold on. Shebrew definitely got a lag. She definitely got a lag. Okay, y'all. Today it is Tuesday, January the 17th, 2023, day 317 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1336. Today we read in the Romance of the Red Star, which is another name for a WASP, just published under a different name. And we read pages 9 through 10, which is called The Cycle of Creation, but in Big Blue is called The Book of Jehovah. They just kind of merged 2 books together, right? And then we hopped on over here to Delusions and Science and Spirituality. On page 288 to 295 is what we read about reincarnation. All right, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed it today. With the little... All right, son, love you too. With the little parable and stuff. So the title today is going to be something with this little parable about the king and stuff. So I want to be able to find this again. So it's definitely going to be something about this hunchback that took over the body of the king. All right, beautiful people. With that being said, Father, we thank you for ever increasing growth. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all. Key Tabitha said, hey, Jeremiah. All right, love you all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6:15. I'll be on time tomorrow, y'all. I just had to, I was running behind this morning. I'm running behind most mornings, right? I really should be. I be telling them to be on time to places. I really do need to triage my time a little bit better. I'm going to start being, I said 5 minutes early. 3 to 5 minutes early. I'm going to work on it. I love y'all. 6:15 in the morning. I see y'all bright and early. Peace.